Hi, I'm Carmel from the Emerald Public Library, and today I'm going to give you a quick lesson on knitting 101. So we're going to go over patterns and how to read them and just some basic stitches. Okay, so here are our supplies for today's project, well, for beginning anyway. These are double-ended needles. This is what I'm using today just because of the yarn I'm using is really, really little. So it's double-ended so that you can make socks or hats and go in a circular and it gets smaller, and these are great. When you're looking at your pattern and it tells you what size of needle, you'll see on the end what size of needle that is. That's a 7. This is one of the best things in the world. It is a marker, place marker, so that you can, like if you're making a hat, you know what row you're on. It's just a safety pin. When you get to the end of a project, it usually says to weave it, and that's when you need a yarn needle. You really need a yarn needle because the eye is so big for your yarn to go through. Your yarn will always have the instructions and what you need to use for that yarn. This is sock yarn, so you'll need little needles like these. And this is telling you what needles to use, either crochet or knitting. Okay, now I'm going to show you how the stitches actually work. But first I'm going to talk to you about your yarn. When your pattern calls for certain weights of yarn, you'll go and look. Most often it will tell you what weight it is. This is a medium weight 4. This is also wool, and it also tells you what size of needles, and this also explains the gauge. So when you're doing your gauge, it's telling you how big it's going to be. It also tells you what kind of hook or what size of hook if you're crocheting, and all the instructions on how to take care of your garment once you're finished. Also, this is a wonderful tool to have. If you have needles that don't have the number on them to tell you what size they are, this will tell you. You can slip your needle in and it tells you what size. Also, when you do your gauge, you'll just knit 2 inches, put it here, and you can count your stitches and see if your gauge is correct. If not, you know whether or not you need to loosen your stitch or tighten it up. And that's just a wonderful tool. Gauge has never been my friend, but that's okay. Now I'm going to show you how to cast on. You take your yarn, wrap it around your finger, and slip it through. That's all you do. Cast on is a wonderful thing. It's easy to do. I'm going to cast on 10 just so we get an idea of what we're doing. Your first stitch does count, but your first row does not. There's 4. I'm taking the yarn and I have it in my hand like this, and just pick it up. Like that. This is a very fast, easy way to cast on. Okay, now I'm going to turn the needle over and I'm going to show the English style of knitting. Your first row is your cast on. It is not a row. It does not count. So the English style, when you look at your yarn, I'm going to spread it out so you can see it really well. You're going to go between. There's the 2 posts. You're going to go between them and pull it through. You're going to wrap it around that needle, and the point is what's going to help you to bring it through. So we're going to go between these 2, go under. This is called a knit stitch. We'll talk about purl in just a few minutes. I'm going to do one more and then we'll do the Continental style, which is my favorite. So I'll use Continental the rest of the time because that's what I'm most accustomed to using. I just take the yarn and put it through my fingers. This is going to hold my tension and also helps me to just do my work and not have to put my needles down as much. Again, we're just going under there and pulling it through. Did not want to be caught. One more stitch. Now, you're going to pull it off your needle and turn it around. So now you see all the stitches are pointing up toward me. And the instinct is to do a purl stitch, and that's, purl stitch, and that's fine, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do, because purl is completely different, but just as easy. And I made the first mistake of putting the yarn behind. Knit, your yarn is behind. Purl, your yarn is in front. So I'm going to go through that very top post and just grab that yarn and pull it through. By doing the Continental style, I'm holding my tension and holding my yarn and not having to worry about anything. When you do the knit one row, purl one row, knit one row, purl one row, you end up having a stockinette stitch. Stockinette stitch, to me, I always think of socks because that's stockinette. Okay, you get to the end of the row, pull your needle out, and again, just turn it. Now you can't see it, well, yeah, you can see it pretty well. Now, if you're going to do the garter stitch, you're going to do the opposite. So this is a knit row, so we're going to do a purl row on the knit row. So that sounds a little confusing, and I have some samples. So I put my yarn on my finger, pull the yarn in front, and we're just going to do a purl row just like we just did. But it's going to be a little harder because your stitches are to the back of the needle. And bring it to the end. I'm going to stop for a second and show you guys what it's looking like. So now if you do the garter stitch, it's going to be ridges. So you won't have the smoothness that you had from the stockinette. You'll have ridges. I think it's kind of cool. Purl. But when you get to the next row, you're going to knit it. You're going to purl it when you flip it. One more. Again, you're just going to pull your needle out and turn your work. Okay, so just a recap. If you're going to do a garter stitch, you're going to do the same stitch on every row. So it's knit. If you're knitting, you're going to knit that row and knit the next row all the way up, or purl all the way up. If you're doing the stockinette stitch, you're going to knit a row, purl a row, knit a row. And the stockinette kind of lines up because the stitches are facing the right direction for you to switch your needles. Okay, now sometimes you'll have a pattern that calls for you to change in the middle of a row, or you'll have ribbing. I love ribbing because I'll show you my sample just at the end. I'll show you all my fun stuff. So I'm going to start off with that knit stitch. Grab that yarn, pull it through, and I know long ago you would hear knit one, purl two, knit one, purl two. That was the thing people said, and it's kind of like that. Ribbing goes You knit one and you purl the next one. So you're going to just alternate throughout. And I'm doing it quickly because I don't even think when I'm knitting. So I'm making sure the yarn is going the right direction. So I just purled one, so I have to put it behind so I can do the knit stitch. And I grabbed too much yarn. Now I'm bringing it in front to do the purl stitch. I'm going to do it slower so that you can see me do it. So when I pull it off the needle, I just let that yarn fall to the back. And for the purl, since I'm bringing it forward, I just push it with my finger so it comes forward. That is one of the reasons that the Continental style is helpful to me, because of the transition is so easy. Again, we're going to pull the needle out and just turn the work. Now we're going to talk about increases and decreases. There are several ways to do these. I'm just going to show you some of the most popular. You'll need an increase if your pattern wants you to go out and make it bigger, and a decrease will bring it back in. Sometimes you'll need, and not necessarily an increase, but it'll ask you to like yarn over, but it wants to keep it the same, so you'll have to do a decrease right after. I'll show you how. Grab my yarn nice and tight. I'm going to do 2 knit stitches just because I want to, and then I'm going to do a yarn over. All I'm doing is wrapping the yarn around. Now if you're doing a purl stitch, it's going to wrap the other way around your needle. But whatever way you're going to wrap it around. And that is going to create a kind of a hole. Wait. Yeah, okay. So you have that hole there. So when you come back, you'll knit that, but you're going to have a hole there. And that's great for buttonholes or lacy work, that kind of thing. I'm going to do another, just yarn over, and this is a decrease, and this is what it will want you to do if you are keeping the pattern straight and not increasing the width of your pattern. That was knit 2 together. Now I'm going to show you, knit 2 together. Now I'm going to show you how to increase a different way. And this is a little harder. I have the yarn on my needle in the front. So I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm going to go in the back of that same stitch and pull it through. Grab it there. So that's going to actually increase it, but you're not going to see the increase necessarily. Like this one you can see. You can see the yarn over and you can see the hole. This is just going to make it get bigger. Oh, I lost that one. Never fret when you pull it off the needle, because you can put it right back on. And yeah, there's evidence of that a minute ago. So I'm going to do this again. Pull it through. This is in the front, and then you're going to go to the back. There. So I have the front and the back on that. That's just going to make the work larger. I'm going to show you a few decreases on this next row. Oh wow, that is really tight. I really had problems with that. Never fear when you have a problem. It works itself out, or you can figure it out. Sometimes you've increased and you didn't mean to, and you need to get it back, and that's what a decrease is great for. Sometimes you just pick up a stitch. That happens to everyone. So you're supposed to have so many stitches on this row and you have an extra one, or your pattern calls for it, it's easy to just do a decrease and get it back to where it should be, or do what the pattern tells you to do. So the next 2 stitches I'm going to do together on one movement. It helps if you have your stitches a little looser. There, I got it. And I'm going to do it again just so you can see. I'm going through both stitches and pull it through. I'm going to do it one more time because there's that one and this one. So I'm going to do it one more time. That's called knit 2 together. And I'm just going to finish up this row and see what we need to do now. Oh, I know what we need to do. All right. So now you see how that, let me turn on this side. So you see how that increased, but it made the holes? So if you have like you need to put a ribbon through it, that's what you'd use that for. Or if you're using it for buttonholes, or if you're just making something lacy, which I wish I had something with me, but I do have a sample. Let me show you this. This way. I put these on because here's another reason why you want to do ribbing. Ribbing was the knit 1 purl one. I did it in 5s though. That holds your yarn still. If you don't, if you just go through, it curls up. You see how it curled? This was the stockinette stitch. I did some garter stitch, some yarn overs. I wanted you to see what it's going to look like as you go later in your work. So you're going to have the yarn overs, and I'm going to show you. I have it like this for a reason. I don't know how close they can get in here, but you'll see the 2 stitches together. That's where we increased with the front and back. So I just did a few, and I wanted you to see what happens. And this is the most important part. This is the cast off. Whew. All right, let me turn it the right direction. No, this is not the cast off. I'm just finishing the row. That's what that is. Let me go ahead and just finish the row. When you cast off, you're going to get your, oh, that was the wrong stitch completely. You're going to, that is not working. Pull your stitch through. You're going to do the next stitch. Then you're going to take that first stitch and drop it off. I'm getting too many strays. So that's the scariest part, is when you're taking it off. This is also called a bind off. You'll see some patterns call it a bind off. So I'm just doing my regular stitch, going back to the one before it and pulling it off the needle. So you only have one on your needle as you go. Creates a really nice edge. Okay, now we're at the end of the row. And this is the hardest part. You're going to take that. Now you still have one on your needle. What are you going to do now? Pull your needle out. That's it. I'm going to do one more slip. And you have a nice knot. It is not going to come out. You cut that off. You take your needle that I showed you before and you're going to just take that through those stitches and it's completed. It has a nice clean edge. This did too, but again it curled. If I'd started with the ribbing, it would not have curled. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye guys. I hope that you liked this video, and if you did, make sure and like, subscribe, and ring the bell.